So Disney's Wish, not to be confused with The Ship, is kind of an anomaly for me. I feel bad for saying that because I've been rooting for this movie since the beginning. I went to the D23 Expo last year. I attended the big panel where they announce and show sneak peeks of upcoming Disney and Pixar movies, which was really just an hour of them rattling off their live action sequels and remakes for an hour. But that also meant I was among the first when Wish was announced. The concept art was gorgeous, and Jennifer Lee was on stage really emphasizing that it was an original movie with original songs. Like, my girl is aware of how many people are complaining about Disney's lack of originality. I met the directors and producers. I got a signed lithograph. But after seeing Wish for myself and looking at this lithograph amidst the others I got from D23 for animated movies that ended up disappointing me, I'm like, now what? And I fear Elio is next. This video is going to lean more towards a rant than an actual movie review because while I don't think Wish is hot garbage or anything, it's gotten me to think about the current state of Disney. Now that we're a few years into the 2020 decade, it's obvious we're not in the revival era anymore. Though calling this the second dark age would be dramatic because we are nowhere near the post-Walt Disney death pre-Michael Eisner era, so it's more so a repeat of the post-Renaissance era where the films have just become more hit and miss. Although I had hopes for Wish, my anticipations steadily declined the more discourse there was with the animation, the villain, and the jokes. I think people are being a little too harsh on the animation. We might as well talk about that first. I thought the movie looked rather good, but then again, the first clip I ever saw of Wish was like an animation test of Rosas where people were walking around, and I gotta admit, I don't know if it was because I was sitting too far from the screens, but it didn't look completely rendered, but it looks like what I saw in the trailers, so... In this new era of hybrid animation, I suppose Wish would be on the lower end of the spectrum. I'd choose Intergalactic, Arcane, yes, reference in the thumbnail was intentional,
What could have been?
and the Spider-Verse movies in a heartbeat. It frustrates me that Wish's art style isn't anything mind-blowing because for years we've been begging Disney to bring back 2D animation, and for once when they try to emulate it, the internet throws a fit. I get it, you can't please everyone, that's Internet 101. I've seen this happen before, but does it not get tiring after a while? I suppose something about it looks off with how the character designs look like they can fit in the Frozen or Tangled universes, but because we've gotten so accustomed to their realistic textures, the lack of them just feels wrong. That could be one. Well hey, at least this movie gave us King Magnifico, who is an attempt at a good old classic Disney villain. I was really looking forward to Chris Pine having another opportunity to voice act, especially as a villain this time, and that he gets to sing with This Is the Thanks I Get, which, as someone who loves Spidey Bells, Agony, and this one clip from the Wonder Woman bloopers,
I'm in a hot tub of love.
Hearing that news was such a delight. However, his villain song does not feel like a villain song. The instrumentals are so upbeat that it sounds like an alternate version of You're Welcome from Moana. After all, Maui and King Magnifico are both arrogant guys singing about how cool their mystical powers are, but because Maui is the supporting protagonist, you like him anyway because you know he has good intentions. But with this upbeat song and how he goes from 0 to 100 in his evilness, just does not work. I'm not saying these kind of lighthearted villain songs don't exist. You got Gaston, which genuinely sounds like something you would drunkenly sing at a bar, but my two main counterpoints would be Snuff Out the Light from Proto-Emperor's New Groove, Kingdom of the Sun, and Mother Knows Best from Tangled. If you listen to the instrumentals by themselves, you probably wouldn't be able to guess that they're sung by the villains. But the biggest difference between these two and This Is the Thanks I Get would be the lyrics. King Magnifico sings little nuggets of genius, like,
Peep the name, I'm magnificent! Are you sure that you're not the prop? I'd love to see you try and do my job!
but Yzma and Mother Gothel sing deliciously despicable lyrics like,
Cannibals and snakes, the plague. No! Yes.
For Mother Gothel's case, it works because she's emotionally manipulating Rapunzel from leaving the tower by telling her the dangers of the outside world. But because Mother Gothel is her maternal figure, the instrumentals are sugarcoating just how deadly she's making it seem. And then when it comes to the reprise, they become more dramatic as Gothel becomes desperate and guilt-tripping Rapunzel to keep her in her possession forever. As for Yzma, it's Eartha Kitt. You dare question her greatness? Stream Santa Baby, cause 'tis the season, motherforkers. The wonderful night lounge piano vibes of the intro as she laments the beauty she once had before it abruptly cuts to jungle-like percussions. Mwah. S-tier villain song right there. The fact that 2 of the songs I just talked about were composed by Alan Menken, coincidence? I think not. Yeah, I can't say any of that for This Is the Thanks I Get. I'm sorry, Chris Pine, please forgive me, but you are doing amazing, sweetie. As much as it sounds like I'm harping on this movie, I really thought it was fine. It feels weird talking about a film I feel lukewarm about and discussing the negatives things first, when most of the time I like focusing on the positives, but it's just that there's a lot of missed potential in Wish. I love seeing Disney taking a watercolor approach to their films, a first since Lilo and Stitch, and the voice cast did a good job. It boggles my mind seeing Ariana DeBose win an Academy Award and have a starring role in an animated Disney movie when not too long ago she was an ensemble member in Hamilton, and I like when Disney girlies have goat sidekicks. However, as much as I love Ellen, I went to Juilliard Tudyk, and the way he described Valentino as wearing cute little pajamas at the D23 panel living rent-free in my mind. I will forever believe in Jolly supremacy. Valentino's overall existence is meh, even though he isn't essential to the plot, and the writers didn't give him an awful lot to work with. His jokes weren't terribly painful, but the most I did was smile at a couple here and there. Since this video is still a bit of a movie review, I might as well give it a rating. 6 out of 10. Yeah, I'll watch it over Elemental any day because of my undying musical bias. And Chris Pine. To go back to the title of this video, I do truly wish that Wish was a stronger movie. Why? Because it's an original film from Disney Animation for once. I mean, yeah, we had Strange World last year, but that was... It may be using the formula of talking animals, the kingdom in a far-off land, and musical numbers, but it's still a new location, new characters, new story, new concept and themes to explore. But that's become such a risk in Hollywood nowadays. Since the masses are so entrenched in nostalgia and familiar franchises, it's become harder than ever for original ideas in the mainstream to get off the ground, let alone find success. And that's what pains me about Wish. To put it bluntly, I don't think this movie is going to do very well at the box office. Yeah. No, it's not because it's woke. With it being an original movie and it being boycotted for good reason, it's not going to help its gross. And I fear that Disney is going to use the underperformance of Wish as justification for them to continue churning out even more sequels and franchise movies. If sequels like Frozen 2 and Ralph Breaks the Internet make bank while Wish, Strange World, and even to some extent Encanto don't get their money back, then of course Disney is going to see this as all the more reason to rely on IPs. It was announced not too long ago that the Frozen sequels are getting the two-parted treatment because I guess Bob Iger and Jennifer Lee want that sweet, sweet taste of Spider-Verse success. They're in charge of a mega conglomerate, so they're just gonna follow wherever the money takes them. I'm not saying to not boycott the Walt Disney Company, but although I'm aware of the love and passion the cast and crew put into films like Wish, just, you know, don't be surprised when Bobby and or Jenny eventually inevitably announce Moana 2 or Zootopia 3. I can say the exact same thing about Pixar as well. What I think Wish's biggest weakness is its lack of commitment. The lack of committing to go completely 2D, not having musical numbers that echo the legendary works of the Sherman Brothers, Alan Menken, Howard Ashman, and Stephen Schwartz, not having an animal sidekick that could just stay quiet, and not having a villain as fun to watch as someone like Hades or Yzma, or even evil as, dare I say, because how can I not, Frollo. Even though Wish has some stylization that sets it apart from its hyper-realistic counterparts and its pop-based soundtrack, it's just not enough to even come close to its competitors. It's rather obvious that Disney was peer pressured into implementing some kind of hybrid style because of Spider-Verse, but Iger, sweetheart, you're playing with the big boys now. You can do better than this. I'll be honest, I was incredibly hyped for the releases of Frozen 2 and Raya and the Last Dragon. I was so annoying leading up to their releases, y'all have no idea. I was a big fan shortly after the movies came out, but afterwards their flaws became more prevalent. The production issues, the story problems, how they had such great potential in being masterpieces for all we know, but are being held down by Disney's corporate, family-friendly brand. That's why with Wish, my expectations became more modest, but still want to remain hopeful, especially with the promise of the inclusion of 2D implementation. I said something in my Elemental review that I'm aware of and actually completely fine with Disney Animation not having to stay on top of all the other mainstream animation studios all day, every day, just because they've been around the longest. It's healthy to have some competition and new perspectives, and that's why I love seeing the variety of what has come out this year. And that is why I've also come to realize that I can't really get excited about animated Disney movies anymore. I still add them to my watch list, I still watch the trailers, I still watch the movies themselves, because as an animation fan I feel obligated to do so. But I don't feel any intense anticipation when waiting for it, like the film I can't stop talking about in my videos this year, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Aside from that, animated projects that have gotten me hyped are things like Beyond the Spider-Verse and Arcane Season 2. Things that go beyond what typical mainstream animation has done in terms of animation itself and storytelling. But for Disney, the only ones I have any sort of intrigue in are, y'all are gonna hate me for saying this, the Frozen sequels. Or more specifically, the soundtracks to the Frozen sequels. Listen, I love Elsa, I love her songs. I thought Frozen 2 was better than the first because of the soundtrack. Sue me. Amidst my love for some banger musical numbers, it's come to the point that I can see how samey Disney has become in its attempts to appeal to the widest demographic possible in order to earn as much box office gross as possible. The comedy, the animation, the characters, they're all starting to blur together. Don't get me wrong, I like most of their films from the past decade or so enough, and I think Moana and Tangled are great, but the last movie from Walt Disney Animation Studios I felt truly passionate about, in other words, saving my precious 9 out of 10 or higher, would be Atlantis: The Lost Empire. I know, it's just... ugh. It's because of this creative rut that it's why I've been really gravitating towards international animation so much over the past couple years. I rewatched The Wolf House with friends during the spooky season, where it was a first time watch for all but 2 of us, and it was so fun hearing everyone's reactions to just how bizarre and mind-boggling the movie's visuals are. You could never produce a stop-motion film about a girl's trauma from living in a concentration and torture camp manifesting themselves into frame-by-frame paintings on walls at a mainstream animation studio. In fact, believe it or not, America isn't the only movie-making country to exist, which is how I want to end this video. If you're craving more 2D animated movies and didn't feel satisfied from Wish, allow me to recommend some of my favorites that you should definitely, absolutely check out. Song of the Sea, and Wolfwalkers, and The Breadwinner. Actually, just Cartoon Saloon's entire filmography. If you're an animation fan and you haven't watched at least one of their films, literally what are you doing with your life? My personal favorite is Song of the Sea. Cartoon Saloon is basically Irish Ghibli. Child protagonists, heavy emphasis on the natural world, even stepping outside the PG rating with The Breadwinner, similar to Princess Mononoke and Grave of the Fireflies, though not as depressing, I promise. The Girl from the Other Side, a comfy, cozy cottagecore OVA about a little girl and mysterious demon befriending one another. It pairs wonderfully with a cup of chamomile tea and the sound of rain from outside, let me tell you. The Legend of Hay. Based on a web series you don't need any prior knowledge of, it's about this adorable tiny little baby cat demon exploring the modern human world. Great action, fun characters, and hilarious comedy. Stick with the sub though, I think it's much better than the dub. And, since it's now Christmas time, Klaus. A movie I knew was going to become an instant classic in my eyes when it was released 4 years ago. Starring my beloveds Jason Schwartzman and J.K. Simmons, its revolutionary strategies in lighting and shadows make you gaze at traditional animation like you've never seen before. Oh yeah, and The Boy and the Heron is out now, so if you want to see a traditionally animated film in theaters, now's your chance. G-Kids taking those W's like always. Anyway, I've been having these thoughts about modern Disney and mainstream animation lately, so I needed an outlet to get it somewhere off my chest, and Wish happened to be the embodiment of a lot of those emotions. Do I believe Disney is going to crash and burn? No. I know the studio's history, they've been through worse. But do I believe they'll announce more sequels on the horizon? Yes. Do I believe they need to drastically change things up sooner or later? Absolutely. Dude, come on. Just let me finish, please. Just let me finish. Esmeralda. Shh. While we wait for that, my next video will be more lighthearted, in which I rave about how much of a freak Robert Pattinson is for however many minutes in my Boy and the Heron review, so look forward to that. Be sure to comment, like, and subscribe for more videos on animated movies, and I'll see you later.